My friends, let us begin by realizing something crucial. Thoughts are not who we are. They are simply passing clouds, drifting across the vast sky of our consciousness. Just as clouds are transient, so too are the thoughts that arise within us. Yet, we often give these thoughts, especially the negative ones, far more attention than they deserve. When you truly begin to understand this, you'll see that negative thoughts are not permanent residents within your mind, but rather they are visitors, temporary and fleeting. The question is not how to eliminate them, but how to stop identifying with them. If you do not cling to them, they will pass, just like any cloud that crosses the sky. Now let's talk about the mind itself. If you want to master negative thoughts, the first thing you must understand is that the mind requires discipline. You cannot simply wish away negative thoughts. They will persist if you leave the mind unchecked. The mind has been shaped over the years by habits, experiences, and conditioning. But what if you decided to take charge of where your attention goes? When a negative thought arises, stop for a moment and observe it. In that moment of awareness, you can choose, do you wish to continue this thought or do you wish to let it go? The very act of observing it without judgment, without attachment, already creates space for something better to emerge. But how do we create that space, you ask? One powerful tool is shifting your focus. Instead of pouring energy into the negativity, redirect your attention towards something positive. Look at the beauty around you. Feel the breath in your lungs. Or remember a moment of joy. Positive thoughts will naturally replace the negative ones when you give them the attention they deserve. Of course, the mind cannot be tamed through mere force. The key to stilling the mind lies in breath and silence. When you are caught in the whirlwind of negativity, pause for a moment and breathe deeply. Breathing not only nourishes the body but also quiets the restless mind. In those moments of stillness, you will discover that there is an entire world beyond your thoughts, and within that world, peace exists. Lastly, recognize that many of our negative thoughts stem from unhealed wounds. Negative thoughts often arise from unresolved pain, perhaps from ourselves or others. But holding on to past hurts only chains us to those moments. Forgive. Not for the other, but for your own freedom. Let go of the past and with it the negativity that haunts your present. Remember this, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who witnesses them. And in this understanding, you have the power to choose peace, to choose joy, and to choose the freedom of a mind that no longer clings to negativity. May you always be aware of the power of your attention, for it is this power that shapes the very quality of your life. Thoughts, in their essence, are not who we are. They are the mental formations that arise within the vast space of consciousness. Just like clouds that appear and disappear in the sky, thoughts are transient, impermanent, and often not within our direct control. We have all experienced moments where thoughts come uninvited, sometimes positive, sometimes negative, yet the nature of these thoughts often leaves us feeling disconnected from our true selves. If we begin to understand the nature of thoughts deeply, we can see them not as an inherent part of our identity, but as passing experiences that simply come and go. One of the most profound insights is that we are not our thoughts. This understanding is liberating because it removes the weight of identifying with every passing idea that emerges in our minds. Many of us fall into the trap of thinking that our thoughts are a reflection of who we truly are. But in reality, they are simply tools that our minds use to make sense of the world around us. A thought is an interpretation, not the truth itself. Thoughts are shaped by the conditioning of our past, our experiences, our upbringing, and the beliefs we have adopted over time. We have learned to perceive the world in a certain way, and this perception often leads to habitual thinking patterns. These patterns of thought are not static, but rather they are constantly shifting. One moment we may feel joyful, and in the next, a negative thought may arise, turning our mood completely. This fluctuation happens so quickly that we begin to believe that our thoughts define our reality. However, if we observe closely, we realize that thoughts are not the same thing as a reality. They are merely fleeting impressions formed by our mind's interpretations and associations. Negative thoughts, in particular, often arise from this conditioned mind. They are reactions to perceived threats, past hurts, or insecurities, but they are not the absolute truth of who we are. A powerful way to understand the nature of thoughts is to consider their impermanence. Just like clouds drifting across the sky, negative thoughts too will pass. They are not fixed entities. They do not stay with us forever unless we choose to hold on to them. The act of holding on to a thought, whether it's a thought of fear, anger, or regret, is what gives it power. When we stop clinging to these thoughts, when we let them pass through us like clouds in the sky, we regain our freedom. This is a shift from being a passive observer of our thoughts to an active participant in how we engage with them. But in order to make this shift, we must first recognize that thoughts are simply mental events, not facts. The moment we identify a thought as mine or I am this thought, we entangle ourselves in it. This attachment to thoughts leads to emotional reactions, which often reinforce the very negative thinking patterns we want to break free from. If we think, for example, I'm a failure, we identify with the thought, and in doing so, we reinforce that belief in our own minds. But what if we could just observe that thought without identifying with it? What if instead of saying I am a failure, we simply saw that the mind is producing a thought that may not reflect the truth of who we are? The truth is that thoughts are a result of the mind's conditioning, and they can be changed. By observing them and recognizing them for what they truly are, temporary and often not grounded in the present moment, we can start to distance ourselves from their power. The more we practice awareness, the less control these thoughts have over us. When we stop clinging to thoughts and instead choose to simply notice them, we create space between our true self and the passing parade of mental activity. Ultimately, understanding the nature of thoughts is about reclaiming control over the mind. The thoughts that arise are not inherently good or bad, they are just there. Our response to them, however, determines the impact they will have on our lives. Mastering your mind is one of the most essential and transformative steps you can take in life. The mind, like a powerful river, constantly flows, shaping the way we see the world, the way we react, and the way we experience everything. However, just like a river that can be directed by building proper channels, your mind too can be directed with intention and discipline. Without mastery, the mind runs wild, creating unnecessary turmoil, confusion, and negativity. With mastery, the mind becomes an ally, a tool that serves you rather than one that controls you. One of the fundamental truths about the mind is that it is not static. It is constantly in motion, thinking, reacting, and assessing. In fact, the average human mind generates thousands of thoughts every single day, some helpful, others unhelpful. A mind that is not well directed can quickly become consumed by negative thoughts, anxieties, fears, and worries. These thoughts can seem uncontrollable, like they are forces beyond our control. However, this is a misconception. The mind, like any tool, can be trained and disciplined. The key to mastering your mind lies in the practice of awareness and the conscious choice of where you direct your attention. When you start to become aware of the thoughts that come up in your mind, you begin to see how much of your mental energy is spent on unproductive or negative thoughts. It's easy to fall into the trap of reliving the past or worrying about the future, both of which are mental constructs that exist only in your mind. Neither the past nor the future is a reality you can touch in the present moment. Yet the mind often drags us into these illusory places, making us feel anxious, regretful, or fearful. To master your mind, you must first learn to control where your attention goes. The first step in mastering the mind is developing awareness. By practicing mindfulness, you begin to observe the flow of thoughts without getting caught up in them. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a river, watching the water flow. You notice the movement, but you are not swept away by it. Similarly, when a thought arises in your mind, instead of automatically reacting to it, you step back and observe. You do not become the thought, you are the observer of the thought. This simple act of observation creates space between you and the thought, preventing it from taking over your emotions or actions. Once you develop awareness, the next step is to cultivate control over your thoughts. This is where discipline comes into play. The mind needs training just like a muscle needs exercise. You must practice redirecting your thoughts when they begin to spiral into negativity or distraction. For example, when you find yourself thinking about past mistakes or worrying about future events, you can redirect your focus to the present moment. One effective technique is to focus on your breath. By bringing your awareness to the sensation of your breath moving in and out, you anchor yourself in the present and prevent the mind from wandering. Another powerful tool in mastering your mind is the practice of affirmation and intention. The mind has a tendency to repeat the same patterns over and over. Negative thoughts become ingrained and automatic, often forming habitual mental loops. However, you can break these loops by consciously replacing them with positive, empowering thought. When a negative thought arises, counter it with an affirmation that is aligned with your goals and values. For example, if a thought of self-doubt emerges, you might counter it with, I am capable and strong. Repetition of positive thoughts will gradually reprogram the mind, leading to more constructive patterns of thinking. It's also important to recognize the mind's tendency to judge and criticize. This judgment often stems from the ego, which thrives on comparison and separation. When you begin to observe the mind, you may notice that it often judges situations, people, and even yourself harshly. This judgment creates inner conflict and stress. The practice of mastering the mind includes quieting the ego's voice and embracing self-compassion. Instead of criticizing yourself for mistakes or perceived flaws, you learn to approach yourself and others with kindness and understanding. Lastly, to truly master the mind, you must be able to choose your emotional responses. The mind and emotions are intimately connected. When a thought arises, it often triggers an emotional response. For example, a thought of fear can produce anxiety or panic. A thought of anger can produce frustration or rage. However, with mastery, you can learn to separate thought from emotion. You can allow a thought to arise, recognize the emotion it may trigger, but not let it control your action. By practicing this separation, you become more intentional in your responses. Choosing actions that align with your self-awareness is one of the most transformative qualities a person can develop. It is the key to unlocking deeper understanding, clarity, and control over your life. At its core, self-awareness is the ability to observe your thoughts, emotions, and actions without becoming fully absorbed by them. It allows you to step outside of your habitual reactions and recognize your true nature, free from the noise of everyday distractions. The power of self-awareness lies in its ability to provide clarity and insight into your inner workings, giving you the tools to live more consciously and intentionally. In many ways, the mind is like a busy market, constantly filled with noise, activity, and distractions. Thoughts arise rapidly, emotions fluctuate widely, and reactions seem automatic. If you are not aware of what is going on inside of you, it can feel like you are swept away by the current of life, lost in the whirlwind of mental and emotional chatter. Self-awareness is the practice of stepping back from that market, observing its chaos, chaos and seeing it for what it truly is. Rather than being swept up in the constant flow of thought and emotion, you begin to take a step back and watch them unfold. This observation creates a distance between you and your mind, allowing you to see things more clearly and with greater understanding. When you develop the ability to observe your thoughts and emotions, you start to recognize patterns. You begin to notice the way certain triggers elicit specific reactions from you, often without your conscious consent. For example, you may observe that whenever you encounter a certain situation or person, a specific negative thought arises, followed by an emotional response such as anger or anxiety. This is the mind's habitual reaction, built over time through experiences, conditioning, and past events. Self-awareness is the first step in breaking free from these automatic reactions. When you become aware of the thought or emotion, you no longer have to let it control you. Instead, you can choose how to respond. This awareness also extends to the way we interact with the world around us. Much of our perception of others and external events is colored by our internal state. If we are feeling insecure or stressed, we may interpret a neutral comment as a criticism, or we may react defensively to a situation that requires calmness. Self-awareness allows us to separate our internal state from external events, helping us respond with greater equanimity and less emotional reactivity. The more aware we become of our internal world, the less we are at the mercy of our external circumstances. Furthermore, self-awareness allows us to recognize our true desires, values, and goals. Without this awareness, we can easily become lost in the expectations of others or in the noise of societal pressures. We may end up living a life that is not aligned with our authentic self, chasing after things that don't truly matter to us or giving our energy to things that drain us. Through self-awareness, we begin to clarify what is important to us and what truly brings us fulfillment. This clarity allows us to make decisions that align with our deepest values, leading to greater contentment and peace. The power of self-awareness also lies in its ability to promote emotional intelligence. Emotions are often the result of unconscious mental patterns, and without awareness, they can overwhelm us. However, when we become aware of our emotions as they arise, we can begin to understand their root causes and navigate them more skillfully. For instance, if you feel anxious about an upcoming event, self-awareness helps you identify that the anxiety may be coming from a fear of failure or judgment. With this awareness, you can address the underlying cause of the emotion rather than reacting impulsively or avoiding the situation altogether. Self-awareness also cultivates compassion and empathy. When we are aware of our own emotions and struggles, we are more able to understand and connect with the emotions and struggles of others. We begin to see that everyone has their own internal world, shaped by experiences, beliefs, and conditioning. This understanding fosters a sense of empathy as we no longer view others through the lens of judgment or criticism, but with acceptance and kindness. The practice of self-awareness requires consistent effort and reflection. It is not something that can be achieved overnight, but is cultivated over time through mindfulness, meditation, and self-reflection. As we practice becoming more aware of our thoughts, emotions, and actions, we gradually become more attuned to the present moment. We learn to let go of the past, release fears about the future, and embrace the here and now. The more present we become, the more we see the world clearly, without the distortion of our habitual thought patterns. In the end, self-awareness is a powerful tool that enables us to live life with intention, clarity, and peace. It frees us from the automatic responses that limit our potential and allows us to act with purpose and mindfulness. As we deepen our self-awareness, we unlock the potential for personal growth, transformation, and a more harmonious relationship with both ourselves and the world around us. Through awareness, we become the conscious creators of our own lives. Values rather than reacting impulsively to your emotional state. Mastering the mind is not about suppression or force. It is about awareness, discipline, and conscious choice. It's about recognizing that while thoughts will come and go, you have the power to choose how you engage with them. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes to direct your mind toward positive, productive, and peaceful states. With time and patience, you will find that you are no longer at the mercy of your thoughts, but instead you are the master of your mind. Self-awareness is one of the most transformative qualities a person can develop. It is the key to unlocking deeper understanding, clarity, and control over your life.